In this video, we are going to discuss or go over variable types in JavaScript. So you're going to open this file here, the GS02 vars types HTML. And here is what you would see. And we are going to go basically line by line and discuss them as we go through. All right, the first thing is they have an embedded script here in the HTML. So we are not using a separate file, it's inside using the script tag. And remember, you need to say the type is a text / JavaScript. And how do you define a variable? Well, the naming rules we have discussed, the rules for naming we have already discussed in previous slides, but you can do something like that. So it's number of days in a week or something like that. And then you can put whatever value you want, 7, for example. One thing that is worth to notice, we are saying just it's a variable. We are not really saying what type is that variable. We know from looking at the number 7, it's kind of an integer, but for JavaScript, it's a number. So either it's a number or a text or a Boolean. You don't have too many different types here. And because we do not know, or JavaScript doesn't know what is going to be the type of this before you assign a value, you need to assign a value so JavaScript then knows if this is a number or is a string, for example, right? And it says var here because it's a variable. What does it mean to be a variable? Is that you can change the value inside even after you set. So here I'm saying that is 7, but later on I can go to the same variable and say equal to 8. So that's what you can do. All right. What else? If you don't want to change this value ever, so it's if it's a 7 hours, so what you're going to do, you instead of using var, you're going to use a constant. All right. The second variable here is x. So x is also a number. So it's an integer number, but it's a number for JavaScript. And it's 12. Now we have a constant. Remember, the constant is when you assign a value and you cannot assign another value. So you could not say down here, for example, y1 equal Paulo or something. You cannot. It's going to give an error because you have assigned this a constant. What's the advantage of using a constant over a var? Well, constant is when you, for example, you know that something should not never change. Like, for example, physics constants like pi. Pi is 3.1415, and you don't want someone by mistake change it to 7 or something like that. Because later on in equations, you're going to see some number multiplied by pi, and you're going to assume that pi is 3.1415. So you are assuming that, and this can give you a bug. Imagine that someone has changed the value if you consider pi a variable as a var. And for you to detect the problem, it's very hard until you realize that something like a stupid like this has happened. So for some time, sometimes it's better to use constants, number of years, number of days in a year, 365 hours. Number of days in a week is 7 hours. So for this kind of variables, I would assume constants. All right. Here you're saying that y1 is 5, but pay attention, is double quote here. So it means that it is a picture of number 5. This is actually is a string. It's not a 5 a number. It's a 5 as a string, as a text. They have defined a second variable here or constant. It's y2, and it says bogus, whatever it is. All right. Okay. So far so good. I'm going to remove this just to keep it what is expected. The expected is 7. I could even put a constant here, but let's leave like that. Now we are going to see what happens when you make some additions or multiplications with those variables that we have defined. So here you have z1, it's a constant, so we are creating a new variable, and we are saying the contents of x, that is 12, plus y1. So y1 is not a number, it's a string 5. So what happens? It's going to be 17 or it's going to be something else? Well, it's going to be something else because JavaScript realized that you are adding a number with a string, so it flavors the string. And then what you have is going to convert the 12 to a string, so it's going to be 12 as a string, and then add this 5 as a string. So the result is going to be 125, but again, this is a string. So I'm using here double quotes just to remind you about that. All right, so this is what is going to happen. The second one is z2, so another constant that we're creating, and we are saying x, the value of x, plus parse int. So this is a built-in function in JavaScript that is going to get a string and convert to an integer. So the string here in this case is a picture of 5 and is going to convert to a number 5. Now JavaScript realized you are adding two numbers. So because it's adding two numbers, it's going to add normally, and then it's going to give us 17. The third one is x multiplied by y1, and what you're going to have here, oops, and then in this case here, JavaScript will realize that you're trying to multiply a number with something. So what is going to try to attempt is going to convert internally this to a number. That's what it's going to try to do, because it knows that a multiplication, different from Python, for example, when you multiply two things, the two things should be numbers. So it's going to attempt to multiply by this string here. So it's going to try to convert to a number. It can, becomes 5. So x multiplied 12 multiplied by 5, it's going to give us 60. So that's what you should see. And then finally, what we have here is the same thing, x multiplying y2, but y2, when JavaScript tries to convert this to a number, it can, because Bogos, that is not a number, right? It's not a picture of a number. So what happened, this is going to say not a number or something like that. That's what you're going to get from this. Now, this is everything is done internally. You don't see it. And that's the reason that you have the console log down here for this example. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you're going to show these things that we have done here. So just, how do I say, a quick preview of something that we're going to see later. This whole thing here is a string, and is what we call template string. And how do I know it? Is because the single quote here and the single quote here, they are special. You see, they have some like an angle. They are not straight, the single quotes. The single quotes can be found, we call tick. They can be found just beside the number 1 in your keyboard on the left. That's the one that we are using. So everything that is inside these single quotes here, the sticks, are how do you say, the JavaScript consider as a string. So what's going to happen? This is a string, 1 colon is be a string, and then what comes is this guy here is what we call placeholders. So JavaScript is going to understand that this is a variable, not a string x, but is a variable, and is going to find the value of x. So remember, it's 12. So this whole thing here, this placeholder, is going to be changed to 12. So it'll be 1 colon 12 plus, and then again, the value of y1, that will be 5. So the 5 will show up here, is equal to, again, the value of z1, that we get 125. That's what we would see in the console log. if you go further, you're going to see the same thing for the second operation that we did with Z2, right? This Z2 here, and then Z3, and then Z4. That's what we want. One thing, if you remember, the Z4, it's not a number, meaning that the multiplication and the result that is inside this guy here is not a number, the result. But JavaScript understand that this is a multiplication, and multiplication in JavaScript can be done only for numbers. So here it's going to say, where is here? Here is going to say n, not a number, NaN, because the value inside this variable is not a number, but the type of the Z4 is going to be a number, because just numbers can be multiplied. Even though there is nothing inside, it's not a number, but the type is going to be of a number, all right? So again, how do you do this? You just run, right? So right click and you run, open with Light Server. Later on in this script, you need to put a number. Let's not worry about this. Just put whatever you want, say okay, and check the JS console. So that's what we're going to do now. So if you click here, and besides going to elements, we are going to console, just a follow point, whatever. And if you go up here, you're going to see the 12 plus 5 is 125. 12 plus 5, now it's a number, is 17. And then 12 multiplied by 5 is 60, as we said. And the fourth, the Z4, is not a number, but its type is a number. So that's what we got. And that's for this video. Later on, we are going to continue in this file and check other things. All right. Thank you very much.